What are some of the connections we can make between art and sports? What does sports tell us about culture and politics? How is art a conduit for larger conversations around society? Sometimes the answers lie not only in the visual representation of an artist's work, but in the context and meaning behind the work being made. In this episode, I'm joined by Lyndon J. Barrois Sr. as we discuss his latest exhibition, on view now at LACMA, in Futbol is Life.
Lyndon Barrois Sr. I am an artist here in LA, visual artist, visual effects artist in feature films. I'm a director, animator. I'm a visual artist. I have a solo show at the LACMA for the World Cup.
Thank you so much, Lyndon, for joining me on an episode of Everything is Connected.
Thanks for having me. It's so great to reconnect, especially in this context. This is very cool.
I know, and it's been ages. I think the
Yeah.
last time I saw you was in New York during Freeze Week a couple years ago, and a lot has happened since then.
Yeah.
This is such a big show, and I think it contextualizes your work in an incredible way, and thinking about sports and football and all of these ideas that you can consider through sports is really interesting. So we'll get to talk about that. So I'd love to jump right in and talk to you a little bit about the show, Futbol is Life. You're a New Orleans native. You've lived in Los Angeles for over 30 years
Yes.
and built a life and a career there, studied at Cal Arts, have been creating these chewing gum wrapper sculptures for quite some time.
Yeah, before that, even through my years at Xavier, undergrad. Yeah. I've been doing that since I was about 10 or 11 years old. That's when I started.
I read that.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to really ask you this question that charted your history. Being a young child in New Orleans, moving to Los Angeles, discovering yourself as a creator, working in the film industry and animation, but finding this medium that you really took to and expanded the ideas of what you could do with material, which is just fascinating. So maybe we can start there. What do you think about the material is so interesting and maybe surprising?
I always made things. As a kid, we always draw, we doodle, we do. Some of us never stop. And I always, in addition to the drawing, I always made things, molded things with my hands, whether it was clay, modeling clay, Play-Doh, aluminum foil, just scraps of paper, discarded phone wire, any kind of basically discarded material I get my hands on, I would make stuff, even gum off church pews, everything. And so my mom chewed a lot of gum. She chewed it all the time. And one day I realized the discarded wrappers were around, that it's foil on one side, which is a paper material I like to mess with, and then paper on the other was another material. And if I actually sculpted with the paper side out, I could color it. I just grab markers and color it. And the light bulb went off. I said, holy shit. So I just started making my own toys because action figures and all these things are so cool, but they're stiff. They don't move. They don't do anything. They're very limited. Some of them don't move at all. Some of them are very limited. I wanted figures and that I could actually move like us. And I was always able to do that with aluminum foil and the wire and the phone wires. And so again, when I got a hold of this and realized I can color it and make it look like us people, I was like, shit. So I started making drivers to put in Hot Wheels cars because the cars were so cool. The hood, the doors open, the hood's open, everything. But nobody was driving them. I just thought it was the dumbest shit ever. So like, why have such a cool toy, but nobody in them? So I actually started making the drivers. And because of the size of the people that I could make, that I made were like the scale to sit in those cars. And so they would just get in, I'd put their hands on the wheel and we'd go. And so that turned into athletes because I was always a sports nut. And so I started making boxers. And then from the boxers, that just turned into teams. And like I said, I just never stopped. But all through grammar school, through junior high, through high school, and through college, as at Xavier, I never thought about it as an art form. I was just, because I was studying under John Scott and I was doing everything, drawing, painting, ceramics, sculpture, the whole shebang, printmaking, everything, like pouring metal, doing all pouring bronze and aluminum. But always thinking about a career in graphics. So I was really gearing my artistic work into the art is a huge umbrella. So for me, I was trying to carve a niche as a graphic artist because at the time I had done a Boston Marathon poster, the official Boston Marathon poster in 1985. And then the following year, I did the official New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival poster. So I was just on this roll of doing graphics work, but always doing these things in the background. And when I showed these to John, he lost it. He was like, Doc, he couldn't believe that I didn't make the connection of it being a miniature art form. And I'm just like, man, I'm just making toys, man. He just saw in it that I didn't, and a joy, and made me realize. And that's when I took it seriously and started to think about how to expand it and had shows. And that's what eventually got me into Cal Arts, because what I wanted to do was actually bring them to life, and learned how to bring them to life through stop motion animation. And everything just blossomed from there.
And when you say bring them to life, you mean make them move.
Make them move, yeah. Make them move.
So have them be kinetic sculptures.
Things like actually create, because it was always recreating historical events, because they're all actual people. In the sports world is why I call them Sportraits, because there are people. And so I'm recreating all these moments. And so I'm like, let's actually make them live and come to life. And so at Cal Arts, I did the first time I showed them, I had a Super Bowl exhibition in New Orleans, where it was Super Bowl 24. And I made dioramas with these, so it was hundreds of figures where I recreated great moments from the previous 23 games. And so I don't even know how many figures I did for that show, but I did a lot of them. And it just took off. And this is way before social media and all this stuff. I was doing this thing, hoping I'd get any attention I could. But it did get some really good attention, like some national media and TV and stuff. But that's what really launched it. And that's what got Cal Arts interested in having me go and like actually do this. Because the other schools, to be honest with you, the other schools that I was applying to for graphics, even though I had that work published, I got rejected. And so I had to really evaluate the competition of all this, because I didn't quit, I didn't stop, I just kept pushing. But someone where I was working in New Orleans introduced me to Cal Arts and said, you're, as good, as much success as you had in that, this is what you really need to be doing. This is the place you need to go. And when I applied there and got in, I didn't realize how competitive that place is, getting accepted on the first application. So you just never know where you're supposed to be in life, and who's going to guide you there and all this stuff. So that's why I say just keep doing the work and have fun with it, because you don't know who's watching. You never know who's watching. And yeah, so I did, my first film was a 30-second baseball clip. And that's when I realized, holy shit, this is working. So then I did a 4.5-minute football. And then from there, an 8-minute horse racing film. And that's my Black Jockeys film that won the Kentucky Derby. So all this stuff. And it's all, like I say, it's always been history, always been just telling stories in the way that I like to tell them with my art form.
Yeah, your answer makes me think about so many different things. But one of the things that you said is that you call them portraits?
Yeah, portraits, yeah.
Because they're portraits of actual people.
Yeah, and athletes, yeah.
And I think about the idea of telling our own histories and telling our own stories as African American people, as people of color.
Yep.
A New York Times article from last year, from 2 years ago in 2024,
Yep.
You are quoted having said, history is always recorded somewhere. You just got to know how to dig deep enough to find it. And I really love that line, because I think it's a reminder that we as individual people have agency to do research, to learn about ourselves, to inform ourselves, to find things, that we don't have to accept the narrative story that's been told about who we are, about what the world even is.
Very true.
And I want to draw this connection between sports and these larger issues of culture that you see and how you think about that in your work. So that's not really a question. It just is more of a topic to talk about some stuff.
Yeah, it just comes down to that thing. I guess it's the visceral reaction we have to when people, that whole thing about shut up and dribble. And you're just like, I mean, we're friends, and I know, and because I have a real hard time holding back my F-bombs.
You can say it.
So if you're saying
totally
speak
cool.
freely, I'm gonna just speak freely. When you hear that shit, you go, no, you shut the fuck up, because you have no fucking clue what you're talking about. You just shut up and dribble. To discount the fact how much sport and culture and politics and life, all these things intertwine, You sound like a fucking idiot when you say that shit. You know what I mean? And it just kills me when people say that kind of shit. All they're doing is confessing their ignorance. It's all confessions when they try to criticize you. And so I've always, whether on a conscious or subconscious level, have just tried to dig deep and find the stories about us. Because when I was at Xavier, and John, my mentor, John Scott, dropped the nugget on me about the black jockeys that won Kentucky Derby. I had no clue about that shit. I never heard of it. And when you do the research, you go, holy shit. Like 11 black jockeys won 15 of the first 28 races. We used to dominate that shit. And then you go, you dig deep and you find Jack Johnson and you find Major Taylor. You find all these people and even like precursors to Althea Gibson. You find all these people and you go, where the fuck's this history? And then when you dig deeper, you go, you understand the reason why you don't find it as much because they bury this shit. They don't want us to find it, or they make it very hard for us to find it. Let's put it that way. They make it very difficult for us to find it because it's there. It's definitely there. We just have to look. We got to mine the territory. And so when you hear that shit, that shut up and dribble shit, it just makes no sense. And so then you want to then start to show, that's when you really want to start to draw the correlations. Like why the World Cup started in 1930, but not until 1974 a sub-Saharan team shows up to play. You know what I mean? You go, it's not like they just started the year before. So you got to ask the questions. Why weren't it? Because there was a whole barring of certain countries and nations of playing in the game. So then you go, if the jockeys started riding they started riding before 1875, but they actually started winning in 1875. And 11 of these guys won, and then some of them won, one of them won 3 years in a row. You go, why did that stop? It's not that they couldn't ride, they just got barred from it. So that's fucking politics. So you can't tell us to not have an opinion about this shit.
And you also can't try to say that they're separate.
Right. You can't say they're separate. And then so it applies to everything. It applies to women in sports. Like, why did the Women's World Cup only start in 99? And then even now that it's even had this almost 30-year foothold, how come you barely see it covered like the men's sport when, they win every fucking thing? So you just go, what's happening here? And so now the WNBA is going through the same shit. And you just go, guys, let's freeze this because there's room for everyone to excel and for everyone to be recognized. And so it really, like the first World Cup I did for Franklin at the Perez Museum in 2018, I was blown away about how my piece was the only one that had women's game represented in it. And even Franklin he thanked me for that because of all the pieces we have and all the artists, no one included them. And I'm just going, how is that? And so even this one, I just wanted to expand that story even more. There are certain things that, like I said, you just got to tell in your work. You just got to tell it.
I want to ask a question a little bit about the playfulness of the material and the sort of nostalgic feeling that I think it conjures. Something that you talked about Hot Wheels.
Yes. Yeah.
And I just immediately thought about my big brother and how he would play with Hess trucks when we were kids. And it was like the whole crib was my toys, his toys. He had Hess trucks.
Yeah.
And I think to see your work, it conjures these feelings of being young again. If you're a kid, you probably relate to it immediately. If you're an adult, it brings up a bunch of memories. And I could imagine that may not have been so obvious at the onset at 11, the years following. It might not have been something that was like immediate, but was there a moment when you were like, oh, wow, this work has a quality where so many people, if not everyone, can enter? There's a reference point. There's something here that feels somewhat universal.
Yeah, no, I'm so glad you bring this up because there was a thing John Scott said to me he said to the class, even when during class we were learning, he said, I'll never forget, he said, there's childish and there's childlike. And he said, you don't ever want to always be childish, but you never want to lose childlike. because it's that enthusiasm and it's that connection to youth and fun and all that shit. I'll never forget that. And that just locked into me. And so whenever I do this, I'm always a kid doing this. As much as intense as his work is, the fun never leaves. And that's what I will retain that till the day I die, until the day I can't do it anymore. That whole childlike quality of playing with my miniatures, making people, making worlds, and just making the art. And I just hope, like you just said, I really just hope that comes through. And not only that, the fact that, again, I'm just taking this discarded material. This is trash. It's trash. When I see wrappers on the ground, I immediately, I don't care where I am around the world because I've gotten them from all over. I've thousands of them. And I just pick them up. I don't have gloves on. I say, fuck it, I just pick them up. Because to me, I'm going, who's that going to become? Who's that going to become? And where is it going to be? And where is it going to go? Whatever. And so that's what I see in it. And anyone who sees the work, the show, or any of my work, and realize that what that material is, like you can make stuff out of anything. Anything. You're not limited to, oh my God, if I got a pen, I got to buy all this shit. No, you could just do what you have some material. I mean, even if it's cardboard, people make shit out of corrugated boxes. Growing up in New Orleans, we used to make one of the things you do in school during Mardi Gras season, you make floats out of shoe boxes. So all those things, all those influences. And so to me, it was just like, oh shit. So if I'm gluing little plastic beads and plastic balls to these damn shoebox, I could actually now glue my own people to this shit. So you just run with it. And I would love, especially kids, to see that and just go, damn. Because even now when people say, oh, I got these stories I want to shoot, and what kind of equipment do I need? I say, you got a phone? That's your studio. Write your story, shoot your fucking film on your phone, and make sure you do it in panoramic, in landscape mode, not fucking portrait. You want it widescreen because life is widescreen, and make your story. And they go, really? I said, yeah. These things are incredible tools. They're incredible tools. Use them. I've been shooting my animation on iPhone since 2011 on the 4S because they were the first ones to shoot in HD. And I have so many clips. I've been shooting. I've shot 5 films, 3 I think or more. I don't know that have actually been on the festival circuit on animated shorts on fucking iPhone because that's what the tool's for. We get studios in our pockets, and I don't. It behooves me how many people don't even realize that shit. You do a lot. You just gotta. It's to a point of being an artist, just expanding, thinking bigger.
Absolutely. And being able to see things that others don't.
Yeah.
Like you talked about walking down the street when you travel, seeing a rapper, you see something that somebody doesn't even notice.
Yeah, I just want them. I find them everywhere. Because we chew, I'm like chewing gum now. People chew gum. It's one of the things we do so subconsciously and just toss this thing on the side. And yeah, I say that's material for me.
So going back to the LACMA show before we wrap, for folks who are watching the episode who may not have a chance to see the show, or folks who are going to see the show, it's on for some time, and we'll talk about that in a second. But can you just walk us through a little bit of what folks might see, what the show kind of elicits, what it creates, what spaces you've created within the museum?
So the show is, like I say, it is a World Cup exhibition. It's called Futbol is Life because we're all fans of that phrase and what Danny Rojas has done from Ted Lasso. Football is life. We love it. And it is because it has that one sentence, those 3 words has such a broad meaning. And so what you'll see it's a whole timeline of the World Cup from 1930 to 2023 of men's and women's World Cup. And it is the plays, personalities, and politics of the game. And then coupled with it, there's some of my earlier work. There is the Black Jockeys film that's playing, and the praxinoscope that I built around it is a device that I made so you actually watch the horses run in real time. Like I said, it covers the plays, personalities, and politics of the World Cup. So it's a timeline from 1930 to 2023 of men's and women's games. And like I said, there's protest moments, there's the joy of winning, agony of defeat, all that stuff. but it just shows how the game itself, the impact that it has on not only the players, but even the world. There's a shout out to the Vuvuzelas in South Africa in 2010 and Nelson Mandela's arrival. There's a shout out to protests in Brazil and Iran, homages to LGBTQ players, and just great moments. And there's also, and it's all coupled with previous work that I have done with my black jockeys, the film I was talking about, they were the first to ride, the Kentucky Derby jockeys. And then this device, this praxinoscope that I made that has actual sculptures from that film in a device that you watch them actually run in real time. And then there's a piece I did called 19. That's a portrait of 19 black LA Rams players from 1943 to 2022 and how they crossed the color line in the NFL up until the current championship, or in their last championship. It's all that in the show. I'm just, like I said, I'm just trying to, so cool enough to have my piece in a permanent collection and say, since the games are coming back, we want to put it out and have you do work around it. And just let me run with it. Let me do exactly what I want to do. And the only thing they were asking was I was putting so many moments. They were like, I mean, come on, you can't do that. You got to stop. You really got to stop. We can't do all that. I say, okay, fine. The ones we have, we got them. So it's 42 new sculptures. So no, yeah, it's 40 new dioramas and 42 new pieces, but there's 220 new individual sculptures in the show, and that includes 2 that I've made life-size that I've never done before. So I have 2 life-size sculptures in there, one of Marta and one of Messi, 2 legendary players.
It just sounds crazy.
Yeah.
If you're listening in and you haven't seen the work,
Yeah.
and you're thinking about a life-size sculpture of a person who's an athlete, so the body's in motion, it's active.
Yeah.
All made of chewing gum wrappers. It's just.
And for those, I literally had giant wrappers made. They're made from 9 by 18-foot wrappers.
Okay.
Yeah, same material, but
so you did something you've never done.
Yes, because I'd never done it before. Yeah. And so
I love that you mentioned that LACMA really gave you a lot of that creative freedom.
Yeah, they did.
Because that's super important.
It's very important. There was not even an inkling of censoring what I did. Not an inkling.
We got it.
We good?
Yeah.
You coming for freeze?
No. I know, not this year.
You got to come sometime. It's up to July 12th.
Yeah, so I'll probably be in LA before the show closes, just not for freeze. And I'll definitely reach out to you directly and let you know. So it'll be great to see you and
you've got it,
catch up with you and wifey.
Yeah.
Lyndon J. Barrois.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining me on an episode of Everything is Connected. Yeah. It was such a pleasure to talk to you.
Likewise, back at you. You're so dope. I've always enjoyed your company and had fun with you. I'm so glad we're able to do this. Yeah, this is so cool.
Me too. Thank you so much. So for everyone listening in, Futbol is Life, animated Sportraits, opens at LACMA and is on view through July 12th, 2026. So if you have an opportunity, please go see the show. Don't miss it. Thank you again.
If you enjoyed this episode, consider supporting our work by becoming a subscriber. When you subscribe to Lightwork, you support the work of contemporary artists and the insightful and impactful conversations that I have with them as we investigate art, culture, and society. You support a female founder and a Black entrepreneurship at a time when our government and private corporations continue to eradicate DEI efforts. Subscribe to our Substack and you'll receive exclusive information and resources about each episode, behind-the-scenes content, and more. And remember, follow Lightwork across social platforms for more insights into the inner world of contemporary artists and thought leaders shaping culture.